The air inside the abandoned archive station was colder than space. Dust floated in the weak light, each particle dancing like a ghost of the past. Dr. Elias Rourke moved slowly through the long, silent corridor, his gloved hand brushing against walls that hadn't been touched in centuries. The station had been sealed since the Great Galactic War. Many believed nothing valuable remained here, just broken computers, rusted doors, and empty shelves. Elias wasn't here for scraps. He was here for a rumor. It's a rumor about a species that had once dared to challenge humanity, then disappeared so completely that even their name was erased from history. Not destroyed, erased, as if the galaxy had agreed to pretend they never existed. His boots echoed in the hollow hallway until he reached a sealed chamber marked with a faded alien script. He didn't recognize the language. That was unusually Elias. Spoke 17 galactic dialects. This one had been gone so long that no translator could identify it. He tapped his wrist console, bypassing the security lock. The door groaned open with the sound of metal crying, and a stale, frozen smell drifted out. Inside was darkness. Not the gentle dark of night, but a deep, heavy black that felt alive. His flashlight beam caught a small console at the center of the room. Wires dangled from the ceiling like dead vines, and shattered screens lay scattered on the floor. Only one device still hummed faintly, a thin metal terminal, its surface covered in scratches. The hum grew louder as he stepped closer, as if it recognized him. Elias placed his palm on the cold surface. The machine came alive with a shudder. A single line of text blinked in pale green letters. "We should never have angered them." Elias frowned. Them could mean anything. Pirates. A rival species. But his gut told him it meant something far more dangerous. The message blinked again, and more words appeared. "We should never have touched Earth." A chill ran through him. This was no ordinary historical record. This was a confession. The machine suddenly emitted a sharp burst of static, and a voice filled the room. It was distorted, ancient, but still carried a tone of pure fear. "If you find this, run. Leave this system. Forget we ever existed. They will come for you too." The voice cracked at the end as if the speaker had been dragged away mid-sentence. Elias's heartbeat quickened. His mind raced through the galactic archives he had studied for decades. There was no official record of any species wiped out by humans. Humanity had fought wars, yes, but in the public history, every enemy had signed peace treaties. This message told another story, one that had been buried under centuries of lies. He pulled a small data crystal from his satchel and began downloading the transmission. The machine resisted at first, its old security system still active, but after a few keystrokes, the data began to flow. Line after line of encrypted files filled the crystal. Some were audio, some were images, others were redacted so heavily they were just black voids. Then one file opened on its own, as if impatient to be seen. A blurry image appeared, a tall reptilian figure with curved horns, standing in what looked like a burning city. Its eyes glowed with intelligence and defiance. The image was labeled in strange symbols, but under it was a single phrase in English: "The final offense." The room seemed to grow colder. Elias leaned closer to study the alien's face, but before he could, the console screen flickered and went black. Every light in the room died. Only his flashlight beam remained. A soft, deliberate sound came from the doorway, a slow step, then another. Not the creak of the station's metal, but the heavy, measured tread of boots. Elias turned sharply. A silhouette stood in the entrance, motionless. Couldn't see a face, only the outline of a tall figure wearing a long coat. The stranger didn't speak. They just stood there, watching him. "Who are you?" Elias demanded, his voice shaking more than he wanted. The figure didn't answer. Instead, they reached into their coat and held up a small object, a human military badge, old but unmistakable. Then, without a word, they stepped backward into the darkness and were gone. Elias stood frozen for several seconds before forcing himself to move. He shoved the data crystal deep into his pocket, sealed the chamber behind him, and started back through the empty station. Every shadow felt closer now. Every sound echoed like footsteps behind him. When he finally reached his ship, he didn't waste a second. The engines roared to life, and the station fell away into the black sea of space. But as he set a course for the outer archive, a hidden vault where no government could reach, he couldn't shake the image of that alien face. And the words carved into the console's memory repeated in his mind like a curse. We should never have angered them, should never have touched Earth. He didn't know it yet, but the crystal in his pocket was more dangerous than any weapon. Inside it lay the final record of a species the galaxy had tried to erase, a species whose name no one dared to speak, a species that had been the last to learn what happened when you made humanity angry. And now, Elias had made himself the first person in 900 years to remember them. 900 years earlier, before the galaxy erased their name, the Virac were considered untouchable. They were not the largest empire, but they were bold, arrogant, and feared. Their ships were sharp-edged predators that prowled the trade. Roots and their diplomats smiled like hunters before the kill. To them, every new species was just another resource, another tool, another piece of property to be bought. Bullied or broken. When they first learned of Earth, they did not send scientists or friendly envoys. They sent merchants with warships. In their shadows, it began quietly. With a single silver cruiser sliding into orbit above New York, people on Earth still remembered the first. Contact treaties with other species tense, but respectful agreements. This was different. The Virac ship broadcast no greetings, no offers of cultural exchange. Instead, it sent a demand. In a voice that carried the cold weight of superiority, the message read, "By the laws of the Outer Trade Accord, Earth is now a Virac-protected territory. All exports, technology, and mineral rights are hereby claimed by the Virac Empire." In the United Nations chamber, leaders argued for hours. Some wanted to negotiate, to avoid war. Others said humanity should reject them outright. But before a decision was made, the Virac landed. Tall, scaled figures walked into the heart of New York's orbital station. Their armor gleamed like polished bone, and their eyes studied everything as if they already owned it. One of them, a high-ranking trade lord named Zareth, addressed the human delegation with a smile that was more like a sneer. "You are a young species," he said. "You have spirit, but you will be safer under our guidance. Resist, and you will suffer needlessly." His words were smooth, but the threat beneath them was sharp. The Virac had spoken this way to dozens of worlds, and most had bowed their heads. They thought Earth would do the same. They were wrong. Ambassador Grace Leland, representing Earth, stood and faced him without blinking. "We are not prey," she said calmly, "and we will not sign away our future." For a moment, Zareth's smile faded, replaced by a flicker of surprise. Then he laughed a deep, amused sound. He turned to his entourage and spoke in their own language. Elias, centuries later, would translate those words in the archive. They believe they have a choice. How adorable. The Virac did not take rejection lightly, and the following weeks their ships began accidentally blocking human cargo routes. Small colonies at the edge of Earth's reach were raided. Then came the final insult, the one history would call the first mistake. A Virac strike team infiltrated the lunar research base, not to steal technology, but to take something far more symbolic. They destroyed the Armstrong Memorial, the first human lunar landing site. To them, it was just an old flag and a plaque. To humanity, it was sacred. When the news reached Earth, the reaction was not loud. There were no public riots, no broadcasts of rage. Instead, there was a silence, a cold, deliberate silence that every Virac spy should have feared. In the Pentagon, behind locked doors, the president met with the Defense Council. No journalists were allowed inside. No transcripts were ever released. Only one sentence from that meeting would be remembered, carried like a whisper through the shadows of history. They just woke up the wrong species. The Virac mistook the quiet for weakness. They sent more ships, set higher demands, and threatened Earth's allies in the Galactic Council. But in the black of space, far from any Official record, something began to move. Human fleets that did not appear on any registry left hidden bases. Ships without flags, carrying weapons no alien had seen before, began to gather. These were not the bright ceremonial fleets shown in parades. These were the silent armados, vessels built for war's humanity, never admitted to fighting in space. There were rumors. A patrol ship vanished without distress signals. The Virac mining station went dark overnight. Its last transmission, nothing but static. The Virac blamed pirates, mechanical failure, bad luck. They did not see the pattern forming. They did not know humanity had started counting Elias. Centuries later, would study this period and wonder how no other alien nation warned the Virac. The truth was simple: most of them were afraid. They had seen glimpses of what humans could. They knew the old saying whispered in the shadows of the council halls, "Never be the next Virac." But the Virac did not believe in such fears. They thought they were too strong to be erased. That arrogance blinded them until the night. The Gray Commander looked at the star map and traced a finger across the Virac home system. His voice was calm, almost gentle, as he spoke to the captains. Of the silent armada, we start with their home star. The war did not begin with a declaration. It began with a whisper. Across hidden channels only a few could access, coded signals flickered through the void. Old captains who had not seen battle in decades received a single, untraceable message. Silent Armada protocol is active. Return to command. Those who knew what it meant did not hesitate. They packed their belongings, left their families without explanation, and vanished into the black. The silent armadas were humanity's. Shadow fleets built in secret, funded off the books, and stored in places no alien could find. Official history said they didn't exist. Even most humans didn't know they were real. Their ships were different from the public fleets. No bright banners, no polished plating for ceremonial parades. These vessels were dark, angled, and armed. With weapons that had never been shown to the Galactic Council, they were designed for one thing only: war without mercy. At the center of this hidden force stood a man known only as the Gray Commander. No one knew his real name, some whispered. He was once an admiral in the public navy. Others claimed he had been a ghost soldier in wars humanity had erased from its own history. His uniform carried no insignia, his face rarely seen without the shadow of his hood. But when he spoke, even the most battle-hardened captains listened in silence. "They have touched what they should not have touched," he said during the First War Council aboard the flagship Oblivion's Edge. His voice was calm, but every word carried the weight of finality. The Virac believe they understand power. They do not understand humans. They believe we will answer insult with negotiation. They are wrong. We will answer with erasure. A large holodisplay lit up the war table, showing the Virac Empire. In glowing red systems, outposts, trade routes, and their heavily defended homeworld, the Gray Commander moved his hand slowly, highlighting 3 points along the outer rim. These are their lifelines. We cut them first. No survivors, no warnings. The plan was ruthless. Phase 1. Isolate the Virac from their outer colonies. By destroying communications, relays, and deep space supply depots. Phase 2. Strike military installations so fast they couldn't mount a coordinated defense. Phase 3. Remove the Virac homeworld from the galactic map. No one at the table questioned the plan. They all knew the truth: humans had fought wars. Before that, no alien race had ever learned about. They had strategies so dangerous, even mentioning them in the Galactic Council was forbidden. This would be one of those wars. One that existed only in shadows and memories. Within days, the first wave moved. Human stealth cruisers slipped into Virac territory using gravity wells of uncharted asteroids to hide their approach. The first target was a deep space refueling station orbiting a small, icy moon. The Virac stationed there had no reason to expect trouble. They were laughing, eating, sending casual messages to their families back home. At 2:17 local station time, all power went out. A moment later, every alarm blared, but there was no time to react. Silent human drones breached the hull, disabled the defenses, and planted charges. When the power came back on, the station commander had just enough time to see the human fleet outside. His viewport before the explosion turned the moon into drifting debris. No warning was sent to the other stations. No distress signal escaped. The humans left no trace they had been there, except the absence of life. The Virak military was slow to react. They believed the attack was an accident, a catastrophic failure in their own systems. That was the second mistake. While they debated reports, the Silent Armada struck again, this time a weapons depot on the desert world of Vekros. The Virak garrison never even got their fighters into the air. The humans disabled the atmosphere processors, forcing every soldier to gasp for air before the killing blow came. Back on Oblivion's edge, the Grey Commander watched the reports come in without expression. Do not let them recover, he ordered. Moved to Phase 2. In less than a month, 5 major Virak military posts were gone. Entire fleets were stranded without fuel. Civilian transports went missing. Trade hubs fell silent. And yet no formal declaration of war had been made. To the rest of the galaxy, the Virak were simply struggling. Only those watching closely understood the truth. Humanity was dismantling an empire piece by piece, and no one dared to interfere. The Virak High Council sent envoys to Earth, demanding explanations. The human public navy greeted them politely, served them drinks, and denied all knowledge of any attacks. "We are as concerned as you are," he said with smiles that never reached their eyes. But the Grey Commander was not concerned. He was patient. And as he studied the star map, his eyes rested on the glowing red sphere of the Virak homeworld. He pressed a single button, and a path of attack lit up. "We start with their home star," he said quietly. Some of his officers shifted, uncomfortably. Destroying an enemy's home system was an unspoken line. No civilized species crossed. But the Grey Commander wasn't thinking about rules. He was thinking about the Armstrong Memorial. About the arrogance of a species that thought they could humiliate humanity without consequence. About sending a message that would echo for centuries in the shadows of deep space. The fleets moved again toward the heart of the Virak Empire. The Virak home system was a jewel of deep space, 5 planets, 3 moons rich in minerals, and a bright, steady sun at its center. For centuries, it had been the symbol of their pride. No enemy fleet had ever reached it. Their defenses were legendary, layered energy shields, planetary cannons, and patrol fleets so numerous they could form a wall of steel around the star. The Virak believed this fortress was untouchable. That belief was about to die. The Silent Armada did not rush. They approached like a shadow stretching across the galaxy, silent, slow, and inevitable. The Grey Commander's strategy was simple but merciless. The enemy would not see the attack until it was already too late. Hidden within the dark edges of asteroid fields, human stealth cruisers mapped every defense point. Long-range snipers targeted communication satellites one by one, cutting the Virak's ability to call for help. The first blow came without a sound. In the cold of space, far from the Virak's homeworld, a star-sized burst of electromagnetic energy erupted. It was aimed with surgical precision, washing over the Virak defense grid. Entire sectors of their shield network went dark in seconds. On the surface of Drevos Prime, the capital world alarms screamed across the cities. Commanders shouted orders, but their voices vanished into dead cums. Ships tried to form into defensive formations, only to find their navigation systems scrambled above the chaos. The humans arrived. The Silent Armada descended from the void like predators. Black, sharp-edged ships slipped into orbit without warning. They did not open communications. They did not issue threats. They fired. Beams of concentrated energy cut through the Virak's orbital stations, turning them into burning fragments. Planetary cannons tried to respond, but precision strikes crippled them before they could fire more than once. The Virak Navy fought back with desperate courage. Tire squadrons hurled themselves at the human fleet. Some managed to score hits, damaging smaller ships, but for every human vessel destroyed, 10 more emerged from the shadows, filling the gap. Human tactics were ruthless: hit from one side, vanish into stealth mode, reappear behind the enemy. The Virak couldn't keep up. On the surface, civilians stared at the burning sky. Streams of fire marked where their defense ships fell. Cities shook under orbital bombardment. The Virak High Council gathered in their Senate chamber, their proud armor dented and cracked. Fear was beginning to replace arrogance. "We must send a surrender," one counselor said. "They will not stop," another replied bitterly. "They came to erase us." And then the gray commander landed. His flagship pierced the smoke above the capital like a black dagger. It descended slowly, deliberately, until it rested on the scorched plaza outside the Senate chamber. The Virak guards aimed their weapons, but they hesitated when the ship's ramp lowered. A single man emerged, all cloaked, his face hidden under the shadow of his hood. His boots echoed on the stone as he walked toward the Senate's massive doors. No one stopped him. You could feel that this was not a man to be stopped. Inside the chamber, the council rose to meet him. "You have come for terms?" the High Chancellor demanded, his voice trembling despite the attempt at pride. The gray commander's answer was a quiet sentence that cut the air like a blade. "Your species' name will not exist tomorrow." Gasps filled the chamber. The Chancellor slammed a fist on the table. "This is genocide," he roared. The gray commander tilted his head slightly, his voice calm, almost gentle. "No, this is justice." He turned and left without another word. Moments later, the final phase began. Human fleets targeted not just military installations, but the very infrastructure of the Virak civilization shipyards. Data cores, historical archives, even the genetic vaults that stored their species. DNA. Every trace of their culture, their history, and their identity was destroyed. The humans didn't want just victory, they wanted raise, as the sun rose over Drevos Prime for the last time. Massive human carriers began transporting surviving Virak into unknown space. No one outside the silent armada would ever learn where. They went toward if they survived at all. By nightfall, the capital city was silent. The smoke cleared to reveal ruins where proud towers had stood. The gray commander stood at the edge of the plaza, watching the last of the Virak transports vanish into the black. An aide approached him. "Orders, sir?" He looked once more at the burning horizon and spoke, "Erase the name from every record. They were never here." The day after the fall of Drevos Prime, the galaxy awoke to silence. No official statement came from the Virak Empire. No trade ships left their ports. No messages were sent from their colonies. Their bright red territory on the galactic maps simply went dark. In the council halls of the Galactic Union, diplomats whispered in small, fearful circles. The Virak seats at the long, curved chamber table were empty. Their nameplate had been removed, not covered removed, as if it had never existed. When junior clerks searched the archives for Virak records, they found only blank screens and missing files. The database tags that once held their language, their history, and even their genetic code now returned a single error message. No. Such entry found? It was more than deletion. It was precision erasure, the kind only one species in the galaxy could achieve. Among the trading hubs of neutral space, rumors spread faster than ships. Some said the Virak had provoked humanity one time too many. Others claimed the humans had destroyed them for strategic reasons, wiping out an entire civilization to send a warning to others. The most frightening rumor of all was that the Virak were not dead, but hidden somewhere, taken to a place no one could find, to live out eternity in silence. Merchants spoke in hushed tones over drinks. Never be the next Virak. It became the unspoken law of the galaxy. No one dared cross humanity directly, even species far more powerful than humans suddenly treated them with a cautious respect. Deals were offered instead of demands. Disputes were quietly dropped. The Virak had been a warning the galaxy would not forget. Yet officially, nothing had happened. The human government denied any involvement. Their fleets remained in public ports. Their leaders spoke of peace and unity at council meetings. Behind those polite smiles, the truth was locked away in places no outsider could reach. Centuries later, on the edge of the Orion Arm, Elias Rourke sat alone in the dim cabin of his small transport ship, replaying the files he had stolen from the abandoned archive. Each time he listened, the same desperate voice came through the static. We should never have angered them. Should never have touched Earth. We had already studied dozens of fragmented images, burning cities, fleeing civilians, shattered fleets. The blurry figure with the curved horns appeared again and again, always in chaos. Always looking directly at the camera, as if trying to speak to whoever would see the footage centuries later. One file in particular made Elias stop breathing. It was not labeled in any language he knew. When he opened it, a child's voice filled the cabin, soft, shaking, and painfully young. "If you hear this, please, we didn't know. They didn't tell us. They're coming for you too." Elias sat frozen, staring at the small speaker on his console as the recording ended in silence. He replayed it twice, then 3 times. The fear in that voice was real to be faked. But who had they meant by you? Other Virac? The galaxy? Humans? Or him? The thought made his chest tighten. His discovery was not just dangerous history. It was a signal, a thread, connected to something still alive in the present. Watching, his ship's console pinged with an incoming signal. No origin point, no signature, just a single text line. Close the files. Forget the Virac. Ilias's hand hovered over the delete command. He almost did it, but curiosity and fear wrestled inside him until curiosity won. He secured the files on a hidden partition, cut the comms, and continued toward the outer archive. He didn't notice the small, dark shape following him through the voidship with no transponder, no lights, and a single emblem painted in silver on its hull, the mark of the Silent Armada. The outer archive was a drifting city of data, massive ring station hidden deep in a nebula where the laws of the Galactic Council could not reach. It was where forbidden knowledge slept, guarded by archivists who asked no questions and kept no records of who visited. If something survived here, it was because someone wanted it remembered, or because someone had failed to destroy it completely. Elias Rourke's ship drifted through the glowing mist, its hull illuminated by the slow pulse of the station's beacon. He docked in silence, his boots echoing on the metal bridge that connected his vessel to the station's main gates. The air inside was warmer than the frozen archive he had found the files in, but it carried a strange heaviness, like a library holding books that could kill. The archivist who met him was an old, thin woman with silver eyes. She said nothing. As Elias handed her the crystal, her long fingers brushed the surface once, and the terminal behind her hummed to life. Lines of encrypted Virac data scrolled across the screen, flickering in patterns like lightning. "You shouldn't have this," she said finally. Her voice was not scolding, it was pitying. "I had to know," Elias replied, his throat dry. "The Virac, they were erased.
Oh.
No one even remembers their name." "Why?" The woman didn't answer. Instead, she turned the screen toward him. Files he had struggled to decrypt opened instantly. Full-color images filled the display, images of the Silent Armada descending over Virac cities, of the Grey Commander standing in the Senate chamber, of ships vanishing into the black with thousands of prisoners aboard. Elias felt his pulse quicken as he scrolled. Every forbidden detail was here. The proof. The truth. Then he found a file labeled simply, "The List." His hand trembled as he opened it. A series of alien names appeared, species names, none of which he recognized. Each had a date beside it. Some were centuries old, others shockingly recent. The last entry was the Virac, marked with the year 2245. But beneath that, in a blank slot, a new entry was being typed in real time. He stared as letters formed slowly, one by one. Elias Rourke 3145. He stumbled backward from the screen.
What
is this? He demanded. The archivist did not answer. Her silver eyes shifted past him to something in the doorway. Elias turned. A man stood there, tall and broad-shouldered, wearing dark, ancient armor without insignia. His hood cast his face in shadow, but Elias felt the weight of his gaze. The air seemed to thicken around him. "You've seen enough," the man said. His voice was calm, deep, and without emotion. Exactly how Elias imagined the Grey Commander. Might sound if he were still alive. Elias swallowed hard. You can't keep this hidden forever. The galaxy deserves to know what happened to them. The man stepped closer, the faint metallic sound of his armor echoing in the silent chamber. You think the Virak were the last? He said quietly. They were not. They were only the last one you remember. We've erased others. We will erase again. Ilias's mind spun. Why? Why hide it? Because the man said, the galaxy is safer when it fears us. The day it stops fearing us, we will have to remind it again. Elias felt the cold weight of the crystal in his pocket. He knew if he handed it over now, he might live. He didn't. His name would be more than a line on that list tit, would be a memory no one would keep. Without a word. The archivist did not try to stop him. His footsteps pounded against the metal as he sprinted to his ship, the man's slow, steady walk following like the tick of a clock. He launched without clearance, the docking clamps releasing with a violent shudder. The nebula's mist swallowed his view, but the shadow of another ship moved behind him, matching his every maneuver. At the edge of the nebula, Elias opened the comms to the public net. His hands shook as he began uploading the files, the images, the recordings, the list. Warnings flashed across his console as the data spread through thousands of relay stations. Then the screen went black. A single emblem appeared as silver. Mark, sharp and cold. Under it, a message formed in stark white letters. For the safety of the galaxy, this record is sealed. You're next. The console went dead. His ship drifted, powerless, as the shadow behind him drew closer. 900. Years after the Virak vanished, history was about to erase another name.